Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Luisa. Yes, it's a different orientation. I don't want you to see the mess that I have going on in my beading station, okay? It is embarrassing, so I want to spare you the pain of looking at something so messy that it's going to stress you out. So I thought I would turn the camera around and show you a different view of my studio. This is where I keep my computers, my printers behind me. So these are all my peripherals, and you know, that's the other thing I love to do. I love working with computers. Besides beading, I also do graphics work. So anyway guys, so today I'm going to show you a different way to do stretch bracelets, and this is a method that allows you to string on heavy beads. Now you may be saying to yourself, okay Luisa, I've done this before, I've seen this before, you don't need to show me. Well, I know there are a lot of beginners who haven't seen it, and who knows, maybe you'll learn something from my method. Okay, it's a little bit different than what you've seen out there, just a little bit, a little variation of what's already out there. I always try to bring you something that's new, something that's unique, and something that will help you do your job a lot easier. The beads that I'm going to use are not super heavy, but this method is good for really heavy beads. Okay, so if you have gemstones that weigh a lot, or even crystals that weigh a lot, you can use this method. Like I said, mine are not super heavy. They are gemstones, but they're on the medium weight side, I would say. Okay, all right guys, well, let me go ahead and get started. Okay, let's jump into the tutorial without any more dialogue. I wanted to show you the beads. So these are from Beadbox Bargains. As you can see, I cut off the label, and these are agate beads, and they're 8mm, and they're pretty heavy. So gemstones are generally very heavy. Okay, not very, but you know, they're pretty heavy. So we're going to use these. They're in a purple color. I love agate. I just love how it looks on a bracelet. And then to match these, I chose this strand that I got from Michael's, and the name of the brand is Nichols Bead Shop, and these are glass beads, and they're pretty heavy. Okay, these are very heavy. So whenever I use heavy beads, I always double up on my cord, because I just feel that it's a little bit more secure if you double up. Okay, so for the cord, you can use Stretch Magic. That's a very popular brand out there. Or you can use Opelon. It really doesn't matter. Both of these are very good brands. This is by Beadsmith. Okay, the Stretch Magic one that I have here is 0.7mm, and that refers to the thickness of the cord. Okay, so you need to take that into account when you're threading on beads, because if you have beads that have very small holes, you're going to need something that's a little bit smaller than 0.7mm. Okay. The Opelon is 0.7mm as well. All right, so today I'm going to use the Opelon because I have more of this. There's no other reason, but they are quite different. So if you look at the Opelon, it's flat and it has fibers. It's not just one piece, okay? And whereas the Stretch Magic is one piece of stretchy whatever this is. So you can use either one. It really doesn't matter, but like I said, I'm going to use the Opelon today. So I'm going to cut myself a piece that's about 24 inches long. I usually cut more than I need. But if you have a bracelet that's 7 inches long, then you're going to want a couple of inches on each end for tying the knot. Okay, so that's about 11 inches, and then you double that up, so that's 22 inches. So I'm going to cut myself a generous length, and I'm just going to do 24 just to make it easy. Okay, and then you're also going to need a needle. Okay, and any type needle, and you're going to need some file line. Now this is the way I do it. Okay, I've been using this method for a while. I know there are different ways to thread on beads, and I'm not sure what's out there, but I've shown you different ways, guys, and this is just my way to thread on beads that are heavy and where I'm using a double strand. So what I do is I get a piece of file line. Okay, and here's a little tip for those of you who are new. I'm sure you've seen this tip elsewhere, but I get the thread and I flatten it out with some flat nose pliers, and this makes it easier to thread onto the needle. Okay, so as you can see, my needle is a little bent. That's because I use it all the time. That's the sign of a busy beader. And then once you flatten out that end, it makes it a lot easier to thread. Okay, so pull the thread down. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to form a knot with the two loose ends. Okay, so just form a regular knot that's secure, however you want to do it. Okay, it's kind of like a surgeon's knot, but not quite. Then I usually do an overhand knot on top of that to make it more secure, but I don't want it to be really thick, okay? All right, so then once you've got your knot, then you can trim off the ends because you don't need the ends. It just makes it a little bit easier to work with. Okay, so now what I basically have here is a loop, all right? And I'm gonna take my Opelon and put one end through the loop, just like this, and then bring my ends together, just like that. Okay, so that the thread is pretty much in the middle of the length of Opelon. Okay. All right, so now that you have that, now you're going to thread on your beads. So let me go ahead and snip them off. I love these agate beads. They're so gorgeous, and I love the color. Very pretty. I don't know how many I'm going to need, so I'm just going to pull out a few here, and then these beautiful, I think these are lamp work. I got these on sale from Michael's a while ago. I don't know which ones I'll use, so I'll just pull them all out. I may even use the little light colored spacers. Very pretty. Alright, so here are the beads. I've pulled them out. I'm not going to use all of them, but I just wanted to get some out and look at them and see what kind of pattern I'm going to do. Let me go ahead and get a piece of paper and we'll design something. Alright, let's not overthink this, but we do want to have some idea of what we're going to do. So these are the two focal beads that I want to use, okay? And I'm going to put one of them here and one of them here. This is the bumpy bead, okay? Something like that. And then I'm going to put the agates on either side. So this is basically what we're going to do, something like this, okay? Obviously, you're going to have to decide what length bracelet you want to make, and mine's going to be 7 inches. So basically, I'm going to start laying out my beads, and I need to lay them out so it equals 7 inches. Okay, now when you lay them out, if you have beads that are like these, where they're different colors or different tones, you want to make sure that the colors are evenly distributed, okay? Alright, so here's my layout. I have 7 of the agates on this side, the focal, another 7, and another focal. And keep in mind that whatever bead you end up with, that's where you're going to hide your knot, okay? So that's what we're going to do, and this equals 7 inches. And of course, if your wrist is bigger, you're going to need something that's a little bit longer, or if you like to wear your stretch bracelets looser, obviously you're going to need something that's a little bit longer than this. But I'm going to go ahead and start stringing these. So you're going to take your needle, okay, your Opelon, which is already threaded on, just like this, okay, and you're going to start stringing, okay. So I'm just going to start at this end and thread on my beads using the needle. As you can see, because I'm using a needle, it just makes it so much easier and quicker than trying to do it any other way. I've seen people use big eye needles. The trouble with that is that the big eye needle, you know, it's hard to thread when you have small drilled beads or small holes, okay? It's hard to thread it through. But if you're only using one needle, then the only thing you have to worry about is the width of the needle and the width of the file line, and then your double cord. So it's just a lot easier, okay? Now this isn't going to work with any sort of bead, because obviously if your beads have very small holes, it may not work. But I love using this method because it's just so much easier, and I don't have to worry about, you know, using a bent piece of thin wire where I'm having to bring the ends together. I don't know if you've seen people do that. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So what you'll see out there is you'll see people getting a piece of wire really thin, 26 or 28, bending it in the middle or bending it in half, just like this, okay, and then they thread the Opelon onto this loop, and they use these two ends to thread through the beads, okay? So you'll see that a lot. But as you can see, I have 2 widths of wire, okay? So that makes it really hard to push through small holes. So if you use this method of using a needle on file line, it's a little bit easier in my opinion. But like I said, it's not going to work with every single bead because of the different size holes. All right, so once you have that on, you're going to go ahead and very gently push it through. Oh, and by the way, I did stretch this Opelon, okay? That's important. You need to make sure you pre-stretch it before you thread it, okay? Because if you don't, it's going to loosen up when you start wearing the bracelet. I forgot to mention it at the beginning, but that's what you do. Okay, so you pull it through. As you can see, it's gone through all the beads, okay? And then you want the loop at this end, okay? And you want the 2 loose ends at the other end. So now we're going to snip off the thread because we don't need the thread anymore. Okay. Make sure you don't lose that loop, all right? And so now what we're going to do is we're going to take one of these 2 ends and thread it through the loop. Just like this. All right, can you guys see that? Very simple. Take the other end now and pull on the other end gently. Okay, and once you start pulling, I don't know if you guys can see this, once you start pulling on this end, make sure you've got a hold of the other end so you don't lose it. Pull on this end, give it little tugs, and once you start doing that, you'll see the little loop right here. That little loop is going inside the bead, okay? Very gently pull on it until it pops inside that bead, okay? It's inside the bead now. So just keep pulling it gently until it's way inside. So I can't even see it. It's way inside that bead. Once it's inside the bead, then you can tighten up the gap, okay? Get rid of the gap by doing a series of knots. So I'm going to do 1 overhand knot and pull. Give it little tugs. Okay, you don't want to pull too hard, guys, because it is possible to break the cord. I've done that before. And once you have 1 knot, then go ahead and do another overhand knot. And I'm going to pull it through twice. I don't know if this is called a surgeon's knot. It's kind of a surgeon's knot, but not quite. So I've done 2 loops around that cord and pull. And then I'm going to do 1 more. And pull. Okay, that's pretty secure now. So my loop is way inside the bead, this bead here, and I have a couple of knots inside this bead. Okay, right there. Can you see that? Okay, so what I'm going to do now, before I snip this off, I'm going to add some glue. And this is my favorite type of glue for stretch bracelets. It has a very thin applicator, and mine is all goopy as usual. But what you're going to do is you're going to pull that knot out by tugging on this end, or these ends, okay? And then you're going to put a little dab on there, not too much. You don't want too much glue, just a little dab on that little knot. And then go ahead and snip it off, pretty close to the knot. So that's basically it. That's how you do it. And so now I feel pretty confident that this bracelet with the heavy beads on it is going to hold up pretty well. So I've decided to add a little charm, and I probably should have done that before threading everything on, but it's never too late, okay? And I'm going to add this pretty little butterfly charm, as you can see, and I'm going to use a large jump ring, 6mm. And this is very simple, guys, but I thought I would show you anyway in case you're new and this is your first time doing a stretch bracelet. And then choose wherever you want on the bracelet, wherever you want to add the charm. I think I'm going to add it by this little round bumpy sort of glass bead, and just loop it underneath like this. Very easy, okay? And then get your charm and loop it onto the jump ring just like that, okay? And then with the second set of pliers, you're going to grab the jump ring and close it very, very well. Check it, make sure that it's lined up from the top, from the side, and there are no gaps. And it's as easy as that, guys. Okay, and there you go. There's a beautiful stretch bracelet, gemstones, agate with a charm. I just love agate. I love how they dye it in different colors, and I love purple. That's one of my favorite colors. Very pretty. Anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I hope you've learned something new, and if you haven't learned something, I hope you've enjoyed the video anyway. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. If you have, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can get my notifications whenever I release videos. Thanks again, and have a great day. Bye.